Well, New York City's left-wing mayor, Bill DeBlasio, assembling a task force to go after historical monuments in the Big Apple. But one city councilman says enough is enough.
Mark my words, the iconoclasm that we're seeing from New York's leaders today will look as foolish in 200 years.
That city council member right there, Joseph Borelli, joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So this is crazy to people at home who are watching. I mean, they're actually talking about the statue at Columbus Circle first. Let's begin there.
Right. I mean, this is Christopher Columbus, but let's start where this all began. President Trump came out and said, essentially, who's next? And immediately the media downplayed and dismissed what he was saying as hyperbolic and crazy. Not 12 hours went by when people actually started calling for Washington and Jefferson and others. And here in New York, the person on the chopping block is Christopher Columbus, someone who means so much to the Italian-American community of this city. It's crazy. This is the reign of terror on statues, and it's only become popular now because the left has decided that it's in vogue to now knock these statues down.
So the thing is, where does it stop?
Right, where does it stop? You know, Columbus was a flawed person. You know, we can acknowledge that.
We're all flawed people.
We're all flawed people. In fact, if you showed me a city with statues of only perfect people, I would probably show you a city with no statues at all. And no one's trying to sanitize the record. But these statues, whether it's Columbus or whether it's the FDR Drive or whether it's Andrew Jackson Park, these are things named after flawed people that we celebrate as part of the fabric of America.
Did you have an opportunity to ask him about Ulysses R. Grant's tomb?
Right. I mean, this is one of the most beautiful monuments in the city of New York. And at the time of his death, Grant's contemporaries honored him. He saved the Union. He preserved the United States of America. He's someone who his contemporaries gave him this monument in the hopes that posterity would recognize his greatness. We're not dismissing the things that he did were wrong, but we're celebrating the totality of his life as we should be celebrating the totality of the lives of so many of our country's leaders.
Yeah. What happens if you just try to erase history as if it just didn't happen versus learning from it and moving forward?
Right. What happens if this Columbus statue comes down? Does the island of Manhattan get reverted back to the indigenous people? Does the Battle of Gettysburg not get fought? There are historical truths that we have to acknowledge, and I believe it's better to keep these things up as a sign of history, and we can learn.
Yeah, before we run out of time, though, I want to talk about the irony that one of the women involved in this, she was involved in the Puerto Rican Day Parade that was here in New York City? Right,
so you had the Speaker of the City Council, Melissa Mark-Viverito, who is now triggered by a Columbus statue. She was the one advocating for the terrorist, the convicted terrorist, Oscar Lopez Rivera. She wanted him to march as he did in the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Yeah. It's absurd.
So she's against the Columbus statue, but she was in favor of that.
Right. A Columbus statue that has been posing for tourists for the last 150 years is somehow offensive to her, but she couldn't see that the fact that a terrorist marching in a parade would be offensive to people like me.
Crazy. All right. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you bringing all of this to our attention.